Welcome to Vivid Talk Live. I'm your host, Gwen Witherspoon. I am the principal and chief visionary officer of Adam Red, an Atlanta branding agency. I'm a brand strategist and a better life coach. Vivid Talk Live is all about your personal and professional development. I want to help you learn a fresh way of thinking and doing for all you were designed to build. I am streaming live to Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, and you can watch the stream from those channels and on my website at gwenwitherspoon.com. Replays are available there as well and on IGTV and Twitter. Make sure you follow your favorite channels so you'll receive notifications when I go live Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, I've been debating about whether to continue the Vision Theory series this week, and I think I've decided to start off by asking you a question. What problem were you born to solve? I know mine, and it's the problem of identity. Introduce yourself in the comments, and don't hesitate to ask questions as we go. Say hi to Ron and Katrina. They're going to help me monitor the comments. Thank you so much for joining, and please share the link to invite your friends. And when we return, I'll share my heart about the crisis that we're in, the world's, yours, and mine. We're getting started late tonight because I had yet another technical difficulty. The camera decided it didn't want to work, so we got that worked out, and I'm excited to just jump in. Welcome, Renee. Hey, Katrina. Listen, y'all, so I feel like tonight I'm going to pretty much kind of share my heart with you. Don't know that, I have an outline, but I want to make sure that I just really that I share the spirit of what it is that I've been thinking about. And so I wanted to start by asking the question, what problem were you born to solve? Because identity is about wait, we got my background being repaired here. But when we talk about identity, I think we have to start at the source, like start at the beginning. And I want to talk about what I'm going to call kind of foundations of identity tonight. And I'm going to kind of reference some stuff that's happened to me this week and things that I've questions that I've had, information that has come to me, stuff that's been just making my own little head and heart spin, and just to really help you kind of get to the answer to that question. And years ago, I was listening to a teaching by Miles Monroe, and he asked that question. Like, he talked about the fact that your money, your prosperity, all of that is tied to the problem, to your ability to solve a problem, and that your job and your work are two completely different things. And so when I talk about identity, I want to help you understand who you are, but I also really want to help you get to that specific work that you need to be doing, that the thing that makes your heart sing. But beyond that, it's not just about you and how it fulfills you, but it's also what problem are you solving for someone else. And I had somebody talk about it this week too, in terms of assignment. Like, why are you here? Why are you breathing? Why are you taking up space at this time in human existence, right? There's more to it than just us getting up every day and just making it from one day to the next. And it's also not so only about what we're getting out of life. And it's something too, because it really struck me that I thought about my purpose, my calling, the problem that I'm born to solve, that it's not just that I get to do it. It's that I'm required to do it. I have an assignment that I must finish. And that really shifted my thinking. I kind of challenged myself. It made me challenge myself differently, right? Like I get to every day. One, because I have this amazing husband who, the executive producer who's working on my background, who's making sure my camera is up, all of those. But the one thing he does is he's made it possible for over the last decade to allow me to get up every day and focus my time and attention on the thing that I believe I was called to do and be. And that is a beautiful way to live. And I'm so grateful that I have a partner in life who supports me in that way. But let me tell you, when it hit me, and I've heard it before, we all have. When it hit me that there was an assignment, I went, ooh. So you mean it's not just been a vision and a dream of mine for 30 years to build this agency with a global and worldwide influence and impact, but it's not just been a vision and a dream for me to create an opportunity to help people build businesses that support who God designed them to be. You mean it's not just something that I get to do. It's not just something that brings me joy, but no, it is something that I am going to be held accountable for. I'm going to be, it's like if you got an assignment in school, I got my MBA. So when I had an assignment in one of my classes, that was a requirement for me successfully completing what I needed to do to get the grade so that I could finish the degree, right? So if we all have an assignment, that changes the game, right? It changes the game completely. So then I think for me, it really made me think about how I am moving and breathing in the earth and the urgency with which I'm doing it, right? Right? No, it is an assignment, Katrina. And I think if nothing else, I want to shift our perspective tonight to really think about that. It is an assignment. So, and there's a couple of ways I got there, right? So identity. If you visit our Adam Red website, I talk about, there's a section on there that talks about identity or defines identity as who you are, what you're made of, and the work you've been given. Who you are, what you're made of, and the work you've been given. All of that equals your identity. Because think about it, if you spent your entire life working in publishing, and or just we can think about in the context of all the people now that have lost their jobs in this pandemic. People, restaurateurs, they've built their careers around having restaurants, one or more. And when you have a restaurant, you do it a certain way. You have seating, and people can come in and they're eating during whatever hours you're available. Now all of a sudden you're totally shut down. You cannot operate, or now you're finally able to reopen, but you've got to do it a different way. So this is a total paradigm shift. It's everything. But then maybe you lose your whole business, right? And then after that, how do you function? Sometimes our identities are so tied to the work that we do, to the jobs that we have, that without that job, we don't know who we are anymore. Or you could do it. I kind of laugh at all my friends because I have so many. My husband and I are at an age. He's 12 years older than me, so he's really far out there. But we are both at an age where we are empty nesters and joyfully and gleefully happy from day to day, because we have no responsibilities for children. All of our grandchildren, as beautiful and delightful as they all are, none of them live in the same city with us. And so it is so easy for me to kind of laugh at what they're like, the children problems that they're all still dealing with, that other friends are dealing with. But it could be a real, well, like my sister, for instance. I'm going to talk about her. Her youngest daughter is 17, just turned 17. So she's going into her senior year of high school. So she's kind of freaking out about the fact that her daughter literally could be gone, away to school next year. And so she is not quite knowing how to face that. So think about it. If your identity is that I take care of these kids every day, and every thought and every decision you make is around that responsibility, all of a sudden, when it's gone, it could be very easy not to know who you are anymore. So identity has to do with the work we've been given, but also the work we've been doing. How you've been showing up in the earth says a lot, speaks to you a lot about who you are. We have this major political divide, and a lot of it has come out of the fact that people they lost their livelihoods, and then they look up and see someone else thriving and prospering and doing something different, and that it's at the expense of their livelihood. So now, not only am I mad at you, but now I'm really looking at who am I. So then I start to cling to everything that, every way that I define myself. And so now that's all these wars that we're having among each other and these racial issues. A lot of that is coming, Confederate southern states, people in southern states fighting for their heritage from a statue, like heritage. It's not right. So anyway, my point is that what we're doing, how we see ourselves, the work we do, all of those things that defines a part of our identity. And when we lose that can kind of create a crisis, right? What we're made of. So what you're made of is really, it's a lifelong quest to really understand fully who you are, what you're capable of, like what has been deposited on the inside of you. I think the biggest task is trying to recognize what it is so that you can value it enough and so you can nurture it. What we all tend to do is whatever comes naturally to us, it's very easy for us to take that for granted. And so if you're taking what you're made of for granted, you certainly can't invest in it. You certainly can't really develop it fully because you don't even recognize that it's there and that it's something valuable to be used and applied. It's so much easier to look at what everybody else is doing and compare yourself to that and say, man, I really wish I was like that or I had that kind of ability, right? Rather than recognizing that your ability is exactly the equipment that you need to finish your assignment. That every resource that you need is already inside of you. And like a diamond, like a pearl, it has to be mined and cultivated. And what do you say? What do you like? How you chisel a diamond? What do you do with it? Whatever. Cut. It has to be cut and fashioned and framed, right? And just developed. And so you have to understand that about yourself. Okay. And I've mentioned many times that I'm all about the assessments. An assessment is a starting point to help you kind of get to that. And the other piece, all of it, that who you are. Whew. Forgive me. So this reminds me of just something that happened this week. And I'll do my best to explain it and not just melt in tears. But I pledged a sorority in college, a Black sorority, historically the Black sorority. And I, as a creative person, one of the things I love the most about my Greek experience is stepping. And I was my nickname was Sister Melodious Delta 2. Shout out to Sister Melodious Delta 1, Tere Quinn. She's not Quinn anymore, but her maiden name was Quinn. But Tere and I used to write the songs, choreographed step shows. Like, it was just a divine, fabulous, amazing time in my life. And so every time to this day, decades later, other than after my undergraduate experience, I I've always loved step shows. Love them. I haven't had a chance to see them recently, very often. But if I had a chance, as soon as I'd be the first one there, right? I love stepping, and so I, my husband made a comment about stepping. Oh, first of all, I love stepping, and one thing I always noted was it just struck me that it was such a unique expression. We have, I was a cheerleader. You have drill teams. You have all these different things, these forms of collective and group dance and movement, but I just couldn't see anything like that. And I just felt, I always marked in myself, man, it's just so unique. And so I think that was one of the things that really drew me to it as well. But so the long story short is, my husband last week says to me, because I don't even remember how it came up, but he says to me, well, that has roots in Africa. And I said, no, I didn't know that. And he told me to look up gum boot dancers. And so I Googled it, looked it up on YouTube, and really, you can see now it still messes me up. So that happened. And then my husband also loves to cook. And so he's constantly looking up recipes and doing things. And we watch a lot of cooking shows on Netflix. And so he was watching a series on the Gullah Geechee community in South Carolina. And so I looked up from whatever it was I was doing and started watching it too, and I heard they were talking about the fact that I have to tell you this whole thing just so you understand why this is making me so emotional. But so Africans on the coast of Africa, they were known for rice, planting and harvesting rice. And South Carolina, back in the day, was swampland. And so colonizers and slave masters, they went to Africa, enslaved our ancestors, brought them to South Carolina so that they could clear those swamplands and plant rice. And so when they brought Africans from all these different countries or in these different places, they all had different languages. And when they worked together and lived together, they started mixing their languages together with English that they were being taught by the slave owners. And so that is how we got broken English. They created their own language, but then that's also how we got broken English. And so what struck me about both of these situations last week was in the middle of this crisis that the civil rights, civil unrest crisis that we're going through. It made me think of it really impacted me because it made me think about how important it was for us to understand our origins, right? That I was so, and you can see still affected by the fact that it's like, wow, here we are thinking that the way we speak, my parents are from the South. I was technically born in Georgia, even though I grew up in the North. So as Southern people and as Black people, we talk about our Black culture and all of that. And in our ignorance, because our identities were basically just stripped. We don't know exactly where we came from because of the legacy of slavery. And so because we don't fully understand the origins, how can we fully understand ourselves? So the fact that here I am participating in something that I think is a Black tradition from these schools, I have no idea that it really has its roots in where I came from and that it was passed down to me. And so part of one of the foundations of identity is understanding origin. And so let's go back. We may not be able to understand fully our natural origin, but we also want to go back further and understand that we were made by someone bigger and more powerful than us. So whether you believe in God or not, there is something bigger than you. There is something that made you, that you couldn't do by yourself. And so for us to understand our origin. So my agency, I mentioned to you several times, the name is called Adam Red. And people ask me all the time, who is Adam Red? And my brother even said, I like the name, when I picked it. He said, but I'm trying to figure out why a black woman would call her, a company with a masculine name. And so Adam Red, because I know that that the problem I've been born to solve is identity. I identified that because I was able to look back over just the course of my life, and especially my adult life, and recognize I saw a thread in everything that I did and everything that I have been doing. And it came, like, as a graphic designer, I've loved doing corporate identity design. That's one of my favorite things to do. I loved editorial design. I used to be an image consultant in one of my direct sales company days. One of the companies that I represented, I was an image consultant, and I loved that. I love helping people understand who they are and help them develop companies around their personality. So, the second rendition of my company name was Glassworks Dream Boutique, and it was all about helping an entrepreneur define their dream and then providing them the services they needed to actually make that dream work. And then somewhere along the way, I figured out that there was an animal, such a thing as a branding agency. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's it. It's not just the way things look. I love corporate identity, but I also want to help build something that works and that helps that entrepreneur to invest themselves fully in the earth. So having a branding agency makes so much sense because of what I care about, right? So I think we have to understand that comes from somewhere bigger and deeper than ourselves. And so when I was trying to change that company name from Glassworks Dream Boutique, and I knew it needed to change, there was just this time that went on where God was kind of helping me to rebrand myself. Then when I came up with the name Adam, actually it came because, so again, I mentioned before that everything I do has some biblical origin, whether you know it or not, or whether I say that specifically. But in the process of trying to name my company, it was the hardest project I've ever done. And normally I get things pretty quickly, but this one was really difficult. And so after struggling for what felt like an eternity, I went to bed one night and woke up the next morning. And the first thought that came to my mind was, well, Adam did name everything. And I went, wait, what? And so I went and looked in the scriptures, and, you go to Genesis and it talks about the fact that after God made everything, spoke everything into existence, he put Adam in the garden to see what he would call them. So that made me investigate. Like, I love word studies because I'm a poet. I love words. So I looked up the meaning of the name Adam. So the meaning of the name Adam it means maker. Isn't that good? It means maker. And and when I studied more, it really led me to the word productivity. And so if you listen to me for any amount of time, you're going to hear me talking about identity and productivity. And I believe that part of my calling is helping you to build businesses based on that. And so that's why I have an agency, right? Because I believe that part of my assignment is to help you, me, and everybody I can come in contact with, help you be more productive, help you to produce. The name Adam also means ruddy, and it means earth. And so ruddy, I see, when I hear that, I think about the color of this Georgia soil, this red earth. And so so the name Adam Red literally just means Adam, and it speaks about origins and productivity. And she said, "You're right." I love it. Ron says DNA gets a starting point. And yes, and so I talk a lot about, I have a whole system that God has given me around defining your corporate DNA. But see, your corporate DNA starts with you. It starts with understanding fully what you are made of and where you came from and what your assignment is and what are you supposed to be building and producing. When the scripture says, be fruitful and multiply, go have dominion. Having dominion is not about dominating a person, dominating each other. And so that's kind of the trick of the enemy, to get us fighting each other and getting us into race wars and comparing ourselves and saying, okay, I'm lighter than you, so I'm better. Like that's really a trick. And because your assignment is to dominate by providing the solution that you were born to provide, for you to be the answer to the problems that are surrounding you. And really, and I'll go back to the problem. And I'm grateful that Miles Monroe taught me that idea, because if you can break down what it is, the one problem you were born to solve, really in one word, your whole life gets a lot simpler. Now we can allow it to be confused by all the voices that we're hearing around us. And so it's interesting how this whole thing is materializing, because one of the things I asked a friend earlier this weekend, I asked her, what prophetic voices are you listening to right now? Because I really trusted her, and her ability to hear, and just her spiritual and natural insight. So I was like, what voices are you listening to? And so I think even once you get a sense of what that problem is, and you can break it down in one word, it's so easy then to get distracted and confused because we're listening to too many voices, or we're listening to the wrong voices. And I think there's a certain amount of discipline that we have to employ. We just have to employ discipline, period, in order for us to fully understand our identity, to fully understand to lay a really solid foundation for our identity so that we can build on it. And let's see. So another thing I wanted to talk, again, I told you I'm kind of sharing my heart, right? Another thing that hit me this week too was the word revelation. So Proverbs 29:18 says, without a vision, the people perish. And the New King James Version says, without a revelation of what God is doing. So revelation is the thing we need. So when I talk about getting a vision for every area of life, we need to get a revelation. And that really, the revelation is not, I get a revelation for my home, for my insides, for my personal life. I get a revelation for my family. I'm going to get a different revelation for my business. Really, it's, I need to get a revelation of the problem I was born to solve. And she said, why is your mouth hanging open? Really, y'all, I'm doing everything I can to keep myself from crying, so forgive me. We don't need multiple revelations and different visions for different areas of our lives. And I guess I'm getting that clarity even just as I'm saying it. We need a revelation, one revelation of the problem we were born to solve. And then we need to build every area of our lives around that one revelation. And that goes back to when I was talking about building on your strengths. Let's not waste so much time and energy about what we're not good at, what we can't do, who does it better, who did it before you, who's doing it already. You have to focus on what you were called and what you were given to do, that one problem, and you build you build that, a revelation of that into every area of your life. And then every area of your life has an opportunity to prosper and thrive. And then you can live your life at play, like we talked about last week. And play is about finding meaning, that you got to identify your strengths. Strengths plus meaning divided by time equals play, right? So you got to know what your strengths are. So my strength is in identity. And so when we talk about voices, so I was asking her about prophecy. And so I looked up the word prophecy just in the definition, right? Because sometimes we can use these spiritual words and really not fully understand, or we take whatever definition we got when we first heard that word, or we've accepted how somebody else defines it and said this is what it's supposed to be. And so then we don't go any further and we miss out on the revelation, like on the depth of how that really can affect our own lives. And so I looked it up. Prophecy. It's a divinely inspired prediction, instruction, or exhortation. A divinely inspired. And I really want to focus on that divine and that inspiration. That's like, it's the breath. You know, you can get an idea, but when that idea has divine breath on it, that changes everything. That impacts other people. It changes you. It's that super on top of your natural that makes it possible for whatever it is you're doing to prosper and for it to be profitable, right? Yeah, there's so much going on in me about all of this. But so prophecy, I talk also about you have to become the prophet of your own future. And so you can speak accurately into your future, positively into your future, when you have a revelation of that one thing. What's that one problem you were born to solve? And so then once you have that revelation, right, that's the vision. So really, I guess now I'm recognizing I've been talking about vision as a vision to do something, but what we really need is a revelation of what the problem we're born to solve. And then the things that we do, they could be multiple and they could be in different areas. So we solve that problem in every area and no matter what it is we're doing. So it could be creating a product. It could be providing a service. It could be, it just could be any number of things. It could be investing solving that problem in your own children, in your siblings, in your marriage, in your husband, your siblings, in your family. It means that wherever you go, you are bringing that to the situation. And you can do that in a number of different ways. And that brings clarity. That is focus. If you're writing something, you're writing to solve that problem, right? And then I think we need to, the other foundation stone for identity is we need to really understand our source. And that went back to the whole Africa and stepping. That wrecks me. I still, every time I think about it, because it just made me sad to understand the depth of what has been taken. The depth of what we're missing. And I want you to not just think about it in terms of slavery, but I think that is a metaphor that we can use to understand how devastating it is for us, for me as an individual, for you not to understand your origin, for you not to understand your true source. Right? Your source is not your job. Your source is not your experience. Your source is not where you live. Your source is not your family. None of that. Your source is God. It's divine. He's bigger than you. And your source is in everything, above everything. He has everything. So if he made you and he gave you a specific assignment and he put in you exactly what you needed to fulfill that assignment, if you don't understand that, that's the tragedy. That's the thing that causes you to perish. If you don't have that revelation and that understanding. And so the other thing that hit me, so when I asked my friend, what prophets, who are you listening to? That made me go back and kind of seek out someone that I'd actually met or got introduced to through this same person. And they taught a sermon about, let me call his name, Philip Anthony Mitchell. So he taught he taught a series called Surviving COVID. And the very first message, and you might go back, it was really good. So the four things that he talked about, went to Jeremiah 29 and talked about four things that happen that you're supposed to do kind of in a pandemic and a crisis like this that we're all going through. And I've talked, Katrina has mentioned that this is a reset, and I fully agree with that. I heard myself, I have this building the ark process or vision. Part of my vision theory is building this concept called building the ark, how to plan anything. And I heard that the businesses, the vision that God has given me, it was that they are an ark, not just for me. It was to save me, but also to save others. And, that's the kind of stuff, but then it was just that one moment where it hit me like, my responsibility. Like I haven't been building, I've been on assignment. I haven't just been building something because it was fun, because I get to do it, because, ooh, how cool would it be to finally see this child grow up? Like it was, you have an assignment, and that assignment is for this time right now. So this tragedy that's going on, this trial in the earth, this was the rain, this was the flood, that the reason that you've been building this. And so there is a specific need for what you have and who you are, right? There's a specific need right now, this time, for who you are, what you're made of, and the work you've been given. And what I want to challenge you, and I hope you will challenge me back, to do is to take the time to really invest in answering that question, because that should inform everything that we do and how we spend our time, right? And that truly is going to be the thing. She said, okay, Katrina, girl, I might have to take a nap after this word as well. It really, as I was thinking about it, I thought, you know what? I don't want to turn this into a sermon. I really, really don't. I don't want to. I want it to be something that really speaks to your heart, because it's really been, that's how it's kind of hit me. But it's like, I wrote down what to do in a crisis. And I took Philip Mitchell's 4 things that he suggested and kind of defined them in my own way. So if you go and watch that on YouTube, you'll see kind of where I shifted some things that he did, but it helped me, it helped confirm some things that some stuff that's already part of my assignment that I have not done, and that I know I have to do, and that I have on a big old list, and that Katrina looked at me like I was crazy when I said I had it, and she was like, wait, what? And you haven't done it? So he just confirmed for me that I was on track, and that the things that I've been planning, things I've been wanting to do, they're necessary. But what he did for me was he helped me to shift and remember that this is an assignment. This isn't just something that I get to do because I'm American and because I'm free. And, isn't it great that God has given me the opportunity to do this? No, I have an assignment. And there's a reason that I'm doing it, because I am here to solve a very specific problem. And that problem for me is I'm here to solve the problem of identity. Do you know what problem you were born to solve? I don't know, Katrina and I went through this, so Katrina could share what her problem is. And if you have any idea, I think it's so powerful to just really define a word, one word, at its identity. For me, it's identity. I know hers. I'm not going to call her out. I'll let her do it. And but then, if you understand that, everything that you do should be done with that understanding. And I bet you'll also, once you figure it out, you'll be able to look back over your life and you'll see a thread just like I did. And and it's going to look different for you. But that's the thing that we have to be spending our time on. What problem were you born to solve? The foundation of your identity is who you are, what you're made of, and the work you've been given. You have to. The only way you can fully understand that is you got to get a revelation, a divine or supernatural disclosure. Something bigger than you, higher than you has got to speak that into your heart so you understand it. And then you have to become the prophet of your own future. You have to speak that thing into existence because you are made of the same thing. You got the stuff that's in your source, right? Now you're the resource. And so you have to speak it into existence, but you also have to be careful of the voices that you are hearing that are speaking over you, into you, around you, because that's going to be a key part of bringing it all together. And then you've got to understand your source. You got to understand the origins, where all that comes from. And then you need to take action in this crisis because we are coming out. When we come out, then you need to have done 4 things. For me, I interpret what Philip Mitchell said was, he said, in a crisis, you need to build. And that's all I talk about is building. Because you're a maker, right? Our earthly bodies were formed out of the earth. Right? What does Adam mean? Adam means maker. It means productivity. It means earth. Like the earth is the building material for your earthly body, right? And so you were formed out of the earth. You could say you're made of productivity, right? Productivity is part of your DNA. Productivity is about who you are. You were given the ability to call those things that be not as though they were, to speak things into existence, to prophesy your own future, to change the any situation really with your own declarations, right? So you are made to build. And then the second thing he talked about was planting, that you have to plant. So this is the time to create those extra products. Renee, I know you're working on them. This is the time to build that brand, Katrina. This is the time, right? And I don't know who else is on, but this is the time to do it, to plant it, to cultivate it. My husband planted a bigger garden. We used to have a real small one that he did, and now he's planted a bigger one. And it's amazing to watch those plants pop up out of the ground and to see where that stuff comes from. Like, I didn't know that squash comes out of a flower. Like, what? Like, all of those things. But it's so powerful when you plant, to watch those things grow and spring up and provide sustenance when they're full grown. Then you got to multiply. In the verses that he quoted, it talks about marrying and being fruitful and productive, all that. So I took that to be about multiplying and being fruitful. When the instruction to Adam and Eve was to be fruitful and multiply. And so I think marriage and that whole concept of covenant really is about being fruitful. And then you got to prophesy. And the scripture talks about praying. And so really prayer really is prophecy. It's speaking over your situation, yours and that of other people, to bring a positive change, right? So that's prophecy. That's revelation. And And then the last thing I'll say, I know I have gone way over, so please forgive me. But the other thing is, when I talked about playing last week, playing, in order for you to play, you've got to find meaning. What did we say? The formula is strengths plus meaning divided by time equals play. So meaning is about really understanding what's important to you and what you value. For me, there's 3 words: rhythm, revelation, and relationship. So everything I do has something to do with that, because that's what I value. I infuse those 3 things into everything that I care about, because that provides meaning for me. So that makes everything I do play. But just because we have the opportunity to live our lives at play, that does not mean that we can just lollygag through life and just, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, fine. No, you have an assignment to solve a very specific problem. And this time that we're in is your opportunity to build, to plant, to multiply, and to speak it into existence, to speak over yourself, so that you can fully manifest your identity and who you were designed to be, so that you can finish what you were designed to build. That's what Vivid Talk is about. I want to thank you so much for joining me. You can learn more about me at GwenWitherspoon.com. Let me see, I don't have my website up there. There we go. At GwenWitherspoon.com. Here we go. Oh, I got to go this way. Sorry, you guys. I'm a little discombobulated. This has been a time for me, and I hope for you as well. But so this is, you can get the live stream. You can watch the replays. You can contact me. And at some point in life, I'm going to get it together and include some blog posts around a lot of these topics and things that we're doing. But I wanted to make sure also, let me get over here. My mouse wants to misbehave as well. Let's see. Let's get over here and click. Make sure also that you are following me in social media. Let's see what's going on with this. Sorry, guys. Powerful word. That's so funny. I wasn't intending this to be a word, but I guess. Okay. Follow me in social media. Let's see here if I can. I'm trying to find my little page there. Here we go. There we go. So at Gwen Fuchsius, GwenFucius. I called myself Gwen Fuchsius. It was some crazy name I gave myself when I was dropping knowledge to my sister. So I hope every time you say it, it makes you smile too. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Periscope as Gwen Fuchsius, and on YouTube as Gwen Witherspoon. Gwen Witherspoon Coach. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you next week we're gonna have the camera working. We might have to take this thing to get it looked at. But 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday. Join me again. Help me get the word out. Share it with your friends. And we will see you next week.